Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the digital asset investor. There was a lot going on in the digital asset space today, but the one that there was a lot of people asking me if I would weigh in on this JP Morgan blockchain announcement. This JP Morgan widens blockchain payments to more than 75 banks. I have several thoughts on this. The first thought that the first thing that it's important that we establish up front, JP Morgan, that all this is a shared ledger they're trying to set up. They're using the Ethereum blockchain to create a shared ledger between banks for payments. The way I read it, between banks, okay? They are not using a digital asset. Now that's a very core important principle here. They're not using a digital asset, but I'm going to go through all of this. The important thing from the article today that I want you to understand is this right here. It says if you look at they're calling it IIN, okay? What I think that stood, let me see what that stood for. The Interbank Information Network. It's basically, it's like RippleNet. It's the messaging system part of what Ripple's doing. It's not what they're doing with XRP, but let's say I would, for the purposes of today, I would like to pretend that this is their RippleNet and they're setting up to use their Ethereum-based version and have a digital asset. First point, if you look at IIN in terms of what blockchain applications are live, there are very few, and most of them are either in pilot or proof concept stage, said Umar Farouk. He's the head of blockchain. This is the single biggest. In other words, of the ones that are in the pilot or proof of concept stage, which our favorite company Ripple and their digital currency XRP are not in, we're coming out of the pilot stage because we have a 5-year first mover advantage on anyone in the payments or settlement space, period. Okay? Those are all huge points I just wrapped up in that one little statement there, so don't forget it. The second thing that I want you to understand about this is that this piece of news that came out today, this is old news. It's not even new news. Here's an article about the same thing from back on April 20th of this year. This is not something that we didn't already know about, okay? Another point I would like to make on this is what Dr. T said, which is similar to what I said. He was speaking to this guy online about this earlier today, Roger Strandahl. This guy had posted this article. And Dr. T, and if you don't follow at XRP Trump, he also goes by Dr. T, then you need to start following him. He's a really smart guy in the XRP space. I'm having a sip of my wine. It's that time of day. But anyway, he says it's a private payments relationship, not a settlement solution. No digital asset. Basically a fancy way of keeping accounts. And so he's basically telling you the same thing that I just said. What Ripple is setting up, Ripple is going at, and I've told you this over and over, Ripple is going after a $27 trillion market of money that is in Nostro accounts around the world and is trying to solve a settlement problem with SWIFT and how this all operates across the world. $27 trillion problem. But I want to address the concept of competition. I've had many sales jobs before in my life. And there's one thing that they tell you in sales, okay? In sales, if you don't have competitors, then you don't have a product or service that's in demand at all. And so you have to have competitors. Hold on, I need to shut this door because I've got family members that are about to walk in the door. I don't normally do this, but I'm going to do it today. Okay. So, but anyway, my point in telling you that is that you're going to have competition. Ripple does not have competition yet, but at some point there will be competition. And when there is competition, that's okay. That just means we're in a field that has demand for the product and service that Ripple is offering, and that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But Ripple has something that I cannot stress enough. Ripple has the most important thing that you can have in business, and that is first mover advantage. And that is massive. Anybody in business will tell you that to have first mover advantage is everything. Ask Bill Gates about first mover advantage, because the truth of the matter is we all know that an Apple computer is really superior to a desktop. To this day, I use a desktop computer, not because it's better than an Apple. I use a desktop because Bill Gates was first to the punch. And to this day, I continue to use a desktop because I've gotten used to using the desktop, and to make the change with all the different software and the things that I've learned on Microsoft would be a big pain for me. And I'm 44 years old, and as you get older, you're more resistant to making those changes. And so that is a huge point that needs to be made. But there's another point that I want to make, and it applies to Ripple and everybody else. Let me see what. First, when you are competing, what's important besides first mover advantage, having first mover advantage can make an inferior product, just like I just said. It can make a literal inferior product get much more of a market share. But we've got it all because we've got the first mover advantage, and we also have the best product. This is a chart. XRP, the best digital asset for payments. Let's go back to what we just read about JP Morgan and their solution. Their solution is built on the Ethereum blockchain. And although it does not use digital assets now, let's say that it did. Okay, well, I've shown you this before. Look at XRP versus Ethereum. The speed, XRP moves in 3.3 seconds. Ethereum in 4.49 minutes. XRP is cheaper. And, let's see, Ethereum would cost 46 cents per transaction. XRP is $0.004 per transaction. Scalability, XRP transactions per second that it can handle 1,500. Ethereum 16. So you've got first mover advantage. You've got a better product. And so have fun, JP Morgan, if you ever decide to use a digital asset. Okay, we've got those things out of the way. And I want to make one final point. Just about everybody listening to this, like me, is on an iPhone, or you're on maybe an Android. It was not too long ago that this phone right here owned the market. Everybody and their brother was using a BlackBerry. This was what, 4 or 5, maybe 5 or 6 years ago? BlackBerry owned the entire market, and they probably thought that they could never be replaced. And so my point in showing you this is that competition is always there, and people can be taken down. And so there's no doubt in my mind Ripple is going to own this market for the coming, say, 5 years. Ripple could one day be a BlackBerry down the road, but it's not anytime soon because Ripple is on their game and they are going full throttle. But I want to finish by telling you one final point that I made the other day. Ripple is going after a $27 trillion market, and it's only with this bank use case. Remember, XRP is going to have thousands of use cases that will drive the price up. But this particular use case is with the banks. It's a $27 trillion market. Let's say that JP Morgan comes in and they are the toughest competitor ever. Well, first of all, Ripple had that first mover advantage. And second, let's say that JP Morgan is just so aggressive and they have so much power that it's just overwhelming. Well, do you think that Ripple will get at least 10% of the market share since they're the first mover? 10% or maybe 30, or probably, in my opinion, it'll probably be more like, or initially it'll probably be more like 60, 70, 80 having the first mover advantage. But let's go back to 10. If it's 10%, as I told you the other day, there will be $2.7 trillion flowing through XRP. If it's 10%, that changes your life and it changes my life. But I wanted to make that BlackBerry point. And now I want to go on to the other part of this that I must talk to you about. And that is, let me get these gone. I'm going to go to this. Today, this afternoon, the VP at Coinbase, CNBC Fast Money did another one of these. They did another one of these shows where Coinbase has an imminent announcement and the world's going to change because Coinbase has an announcement. And this guy comes out. He's the VP at Coinbase. He comes out with the most bizarre statement. And his statement was that there's going to be a new listing policy on Coinbase. And he introduced listing.coinbase.com. And he says this is going to allow Coinbase to add as many assets that are compliant with the local law. And I thought, this is nothing new. I mean, they've been saying this same kind of line all along. And so I went to the website. You're looking at it right now. You can literally come in here. It shows you the assets that they currently have. You can come in here and you can apply to get your asset listed. They don't have XRP, the greatest digital asset ever created, on here, but you've got to come in here and you can do an application. I wonder if Brad Garlinghouse has gone in here and clicked the apply button. But really, I want to break down what this is really all about to you. Coinbase. Now, I want you to think about this. Let's pretend that you're an investor in Coinbase. And I'll show you, C3 Nick that I bring up all the time is the one that got me thinking about this. Let's pretend you're a Coinbase investor. And let me have another sip here. Let's pretend you're a Coinbase investor. And last week, you heard, as all of us heard, that Ripple is about to go live in production with an actual product that for the first time in the history of the world will use a digital asset, and I'm referring to XRP. That was in articles. It was in articles on CNBC and everywhere else. And you then watch XRP by itself pretty much go up by 100% in 1 week, and you're an investor in Coinbase. Do you think that the guys that run Coinbase, which I think has been running a snob factory of digital assets for some unknown reason instead of running a business, I've said this before, do you think that you as an investor in Coinbase would raise your hand and say, what in the world are you people thinking? And all of this is in the midst of watching the founder of Binance. This guy's going around the world from stop to stop and conquering the digital asset world because he's being open-minded and doing the smart thing that any business person would do. He's going around the world and adding digital assets. And he knows that there will be many that fail, but he knows that this market is going to be the hottest thing that's ever hit the world for the next 5 years. And so he's adding the digital assets. If some of them fail, he can delist them. There's nothing against that. It's the wild, wild west right now. But Coinbase to have stuck to their guns and just held on to these five, you can only imagine the pressure that they are receiving from their investors, and that's what's going on. If this guy really, if Dan Romero, the VP of Coinbase, if he really wanted to come out and make an honest announcement, what he should have done is come out and said, we are getting our tails kicked by Binance, which has become the greatest exchange in the world, crypto exchange in the world. We're getting our tails kicked, and so we're about to start listing some actual digital assets that should have been listed years ago. And so I'll finish with C3 Nick's this is what got me to thinking. I put it in the title of this video. This guy's been on fire today. Go follow the guy if you haven't. He put up, and I thought it caught me weird how he worded this, and that's why I'm putting it in the title of my video. Coinbase cannot not add hashtag XRP, and I thought that was funny. And then he just puts hashtag opinion. And then one of my favorite guys on Twitter, and he sends me messages occasionally. He says, "Why that opinion?" C3 Nick says, "They have investors which are also invested in Ripple and XRP. Coinbase is a company with stakeholders and wants to maximize revenue. Excluding the most requested assets does not fit. They have competitors which will take market share if they do not add it. I'm the digital asset investor. I am not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe and hit the like button. I am out of here. It's nighttime. Thanks for listening."